In this video, I will give you some general recommendations on how to make your navigation code testable. So, in order to show that, I have one of my applications created in one of the previous videos of this section. As you can see, we have a selection screen composable in which we select some parameters for our image of choice, enter some caption for it, and then go to another screen to see those information. As you can see here, for selection screen composable, we are passing our nav controller. The first principle you need to know about making your composables and making your navigation code testable is that you need to pass only the parameters that you need to your composable. The second principle is that you should never pass your nav controller to a composable. This means that what we see here is not good for testing. We need to change this. Instead of passing our nav controller directly to our composable, we need to pass in some lambda that will be invoked, and once it is invoked, it allows us to change our navigation code and to perform the navigation here instead of doing it inside the body of our composable. Currently, we are doing the navigation inside the body of our composable. As you can see here, we have received our nav controller inside the body of selection screen, and the button directly performs the logic for navigation. It navigates to the show route. And there's another button that performs the navigation to another route called greet. In order to change this, I'm gonna define a lambda instead of the current parameter that it has. The current parameter is the nav controller, so I'm gonna remove that, and instead I'm gonna create a lambda on navigate. This lambda will take a parameter. Its type is string here because our root types and our root names are string, as you can see. Therefore, we will receive a string. We will pass a string to our lambda, and it doesn't return anything, unit. And once we have this parameter, we don't need to worry anymore about how to perform the navigation inside the body of our composable here. So the button's logic here changes from what we have currently to on navigate, and then the parameter that it is already passing, we copy that parameter and pass it to on navigate. We are just passing it to the lambda so that the caller knows what to do with it. We are only surfacing up this parameter. We are not performing the navigation ourselves. And we do that same thing with the second button in our selection screen. I comment out the current line that directly performed the navigation, and instead call on navigate, and I pass in the parameter that it was using to perform the navigation. So now this composable is much better because it is not concerned about performing the navigation itself. It is much testable, much more testable than what it was before. So the principle that you need to use as you saw, is using a lambda instead of your nav controller for your composable of choice, for your destination composable. Also, once we change this signature for this composable, we need to make some changes in how we call it. Currently, we are calling it in the body of one of our navigation graph nodes. As you can see, our home route was calling selection screen and it was passing nav controller. This will change because we are not passing nav controller anymore. It doesn't accept nav controller anymore. This time it is actually calling on, it is using on navigate. And you know that on navigate now takes in the route string as a parameter so that we can perform the navigation here. So because I have nav controller here and I have access to it, now I can perform the navigation right here. So I say nav controller, navigate, route. Just as simple as that. You see that it's very simple. Let's run it. See if it works. Okay, let's change some parameters like scale and enter some description. There we go. You see that the behavior is not changed. However, the principle that we used allows us to have a testable composable. So the principle that you need to use to make your composables testable is very simple. By following this principle, you can make your navigation code testable. We only pass the parameters that we need to our composable of choice, to our destination composable, and that composable invoked this lambda, and inside the body of the composable function and the lambda we added some minimal logic to perform the navigation for us. Although it's very simple, it's very effective and it's necessary in order to have testable navigation code. So that's it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it.